I wanted to start by just putting into perspective where the Indian life and non-life industry sits relative to other countries that we might want to compare ourselves with in the world. So, if you look at the data, we're actually quite well represented when it comes to life. On the left side of the page, you'll see a handful of countries that we've picked, where we've looked at the percentage of GDP represented by the insurance premium. And you'll see that India is actually doing okay when it comes to the life side of the page. If you then move to the right side of the page, you'll find that on the non-life side, there is what I would consider a huge opportunity. Not only a huge opportunity, I would say quite a weakness in terms of the extent to which in India we are covered for the kind of protection that we should aspire to be covered for. So we've compiled some research as to what it is that gets in the way of Indians taking the right level of protection, particularly on the non-life side. If you look at the data, we've grouped the answers into three buckets, but the one that stands out for us more than anything is awareness and perception. The fact that the single biggest reason that's given by Indians is that actually it's not so important. The other one is, I don't have so much confidence, I don't have so much trust in insurance. There's inadequate value on maturity, products are too complex. There's a whole piece around awareness and perception that needs to be addressed. But then if you look at the left side of the page, the single biggest column is it's too expensive. The perception that non-life is too expensive is another thing that we really need to address. So if you look at education and awareness, and what you'll see is, as expected, within non-life, automobile and health tend to be the biggest areas of non-life insurance. And what you'll find is that in terms of awareness, the awareness level of health, and if you just take health as an example, it's just over 60%. Automobile is better than that. Within the level of awareness of health, the best known in terms of features is the cashless facility, and even that is under 40%. If you then go to other clauses like pre-illness, waiting period for claim, etc., you're talking about 10% or thereabouts in terms of awareness. So the question is, in a scenario like that, what actually happens when someone falls ill? Where does the money come from? So take a look at this data. On the left side of this page, you'll find that the largest slice of this graph is out-of-pocket expenses. That's where healthcare expenditure in India comes from. So on the right side, you see the percentage of population that gets pushed below the poverty line or actually loses its life due to high out-of-pocket expenses. And you'll find that unfortunately India is the highest. So the consequences of not having enough cover to cover for untoward medical emergencies is actually quite stark. So there's a lot of research that's been compiled in terms of what they refer to as a benchmark level of spending that every economy should be doing to cover itself. And it's been compiled by Lloyd's of London and Swiss Re. In India, it's roughly 50% of what the benchmark should have been. So we should be at approximately double the level at where we are currently. And the economic losses that have been quantified adds up to approximately $22 billion. So if you look at the kind of evolution that countries follow, and you track it on the y-axis, which is the percentage penetration, or which is the premium as a percentage of GDP, and on the x-axis, the per capita GDP as a country becomes richer. India is in actually a pretty good place in that S-curve when it comes to life, and is less good when it comes to non-life. So let's put all the countries on this axis and see what it looks like. So this is what you have. On the left side, you've got insurance when it comes to life. India is quite a long way left. However, when it comes to penetration, it's actually outside the S curve, so it's actually doing quite well. However, when you come to non-life, India is quite at the bottom of the S curve and has a long way to go. So if that's where we stand at the moment, where is India likely to be? What's the kind of evolution that's likely to come? And the answer is that India would be going from something like a 1% to 1.8% to be consistent with a 5 trillion economy that is currently talked about by the government. So in order to get all of that, in order to go through that kind of journey, there's 4 things that we need to do. We've talked about accessibility. We have talked about awareness and education. There's a role the regulator can play, and there's a huge role for technology to play. So that's what needs to be done.